As I noted last night, it was terrific for the president to let the sunlight in during that DACA back and forth at the White House. Transparency is long overdue in the legislative process. It's something I've been asking for years. He was engaged and he was enthusiastic about having both sides at the table. That was really good. He also reiterated that the wall and ending chain migration was a prerequisite for any deal on the so-called Dreamers. But not so reassuring was when this went down.
You turn on Fox News and I can hear the drumbeat coming. Right-wing radio and TV talk show hosts are going to beat the crap out of us because it's going to be amnesty all over again.
And then the president basically seconded that emotion.
Thank you, Lindsay. You know, it's very interesting because I do have people that are, let's just to use a very common term, very far right and very far left. They're very unhappy about what we're doing, but I really don't believe they have to be.
Excuse me? Lindsey Graham hitting Fox News? Well, that's nothing new. But the president hitting the far right? That's adopting the language of his fiercest critics on the left and many in the open borders crowd. Pretty surprising. And then here was the pièce de résistance.
This group comes back, hopefully with an agreement. This group and others from the Senate, from the House, comes back with an agreement. I'm signing it. I mean, I will be signing it. I'm not going to say, oh, gee, I want this or I want that. I'll be signing it.
And here's the part that made Jeb Bush all warm and fuzzy.
This should be a bipartisan bill. This should be a bill of love. Truly, it should be a bill of love, and we can do that.
Wait, does that sound a little bit familiar?
Yes, they broke the law, but it's not a felony. It's kind of it's an act of love.
Now, do you remember when candidate Trump ridiculed low-energy Jeb for that?
If you remember, he said they come as an act of love, okay? Tell that to the families, and there are many, many, many families who lost a loved one. Act of love, okay? There's no act of love.
And remember candidate Trump saying this?
No citizenship.
No citizenship. No citizenship.
Everyone agree with that?
All right. I mean, go a step further. They'll pay back taxes. They have to pay taxes. There's no amnesty as such. There's no amnesty.
Listen to the crowd. So what happened? Well, maybe the president realizes that he's never going to get a wall unless he does that DACA amnesty. Maybe. And maybe he thinks he just can't end chain migration unless he gives legal status to those 800,000 illegals. They range from about 16 years of age to about 30 years of age. They're not all kids now. But that is a hard pill for many of his most loyal supporters to swallow. Today, many of my radio listeners were in meltdown mode.
We're not going to get a new wall. I'll bet my shirt we don't get it. We don't get
Sean,
verify. I'll bet my shirt on that.
If he breaks his promise and he grants amnesty to these dreamers, it's over. I think it's over.
My kids were born and raised in America. We have dreams too. You know, if we don't obey the law, nobody comes and gives us free stuff.
We are not far right when we simply insist on abiding by the legal immigration rules and national sovereignty. When did that ever become far right?
I'm feeling deflated right now.
Well, I did my best to buck up the listeners, but it wasn't easy. Now, it's true President Trump is winning praise for his newfound openness to things like comprehensive immigration reform. We all know that's mass amnesty. But he's winning it from some of the same people who are enemies of his populist agenda. And by the way, the same people who revile his supporters.
I thought that it was great to see our friends in both parties in there.
I think opening it up and letting us see them talk to each other, there was a positive feeling about that.
This is the presidency that many people thought Donald Trump was capable of. Just the notion of him being in command.
I think it was very helpful, both before the cameras left and after they left.
That's the guy who wrote the book just trashing Trump and didn't even vote for him. Well, not so long ago, like yesterday, they were calling you, Mr. President, and your agenda far right, extreme right, racist, xenophobic, alt-right. The president's new friends, the bipartisan cabal that's been pushing amnesty for years, have a few goals in mind. The Republicans, they want cheap labor. And the Democrats, they want new voters who are captive to big government. But there's another goal that the establishment hopes to accomplish. They want to separate Donald Trump from his base and break the spirit of the populist movement. Well, they're not going to succeed. They think they will, though, because people like Steve Bannon is sidelined and they think their moment has arrived. The president has to remain loyal to his supporters and to his agenda, the one he ran on, the one that won all that applause and rave reviews at all those rallies where people stood in line for hours in the cold. And he has to be willing to walk away, yes, walk away from a bad deal, just the way Reagan walked away from a bad deal with the Soviets at Reykjavik. Look, we all understand that governance is difficult. And sometimes you have to get the best deal you can with the votes you're given. But I think Kevin McCarthy, who's not exactly an immigration hardliner, had it right when he cautioned the president yesterday during that meeting. He said, look, you can't agree to a deal that compounds the problem, a deal that ends up only attracting more illegals down the road. Right now, we have another surge happening at the border, and one that fails to fortify the border, really fortify it. Now, there's a possibility that President Trump is doing something else, and I'm going to leave this possibility open, that he's playing a really smooth game with Republicans and Democrats and the media. So while he conveys an openness to negotiating, you're great, Diane, no, you're great, Dick, I love you guys, well, he's forcefully staking out his ground and managing to bring all parties to the table, and it's not just that. Just this week, there are really encouraging signs. The president is actually doing the hard work of enforcement. He just announced that 200,000 Salvadorans who were supposed to be here temporarily, been here for about 25 years, are going to finally have to go home because guess what? The hurricane's over. And today, the administration raided about 100 7-Elevens, hunting for illegal employees and going after the employers who are abusing them and abusing the system. This is the kind of robust, proactive enforcement that Americans expect and his supporters demanded. But when it comes to any DACA deal, the president has got to realize there are just two things that matter above all else. Number one, DACA is the only leverage the president has to implement his entire immigration agenda. And number two, Democrats favor granting citizenship to these illegal aliens because they believe it is the absolute key to achieving a supermajority, just like the one they currently have in California. They want that in every key battleground state. So there's so much more at stake than just the future of the Dreamers. This deal could decide the fate of the country. I'm going to wait to see what the final DACA proposal looks like. But if it does not include a wall, a real wall, not a see-through wall, expect a political revolt from the base, which means losing the House and maybe even losing the Senate. And by the way, chain migration, absolutely necessary. So if those things aren't in the deal, or they're watered down so badly they don't really exist at all, we end up losing the House, the Senate. Who's going to be left to defend the president? Dick Durbin? Lindsey Graham? Or all those hard right people who host radio shows or on Fox News? The president did not promise his supporters an opaque electronic fence that only covers a third of the border. He promised them a wall, a big, beautiful wall. And unless it's built, unless chain migration is ended, I fear, Mr. President, your most ardent supporters will write you off as just another politician who said something he didn't really mean. And that would be heartbreaking. And that's the angle.